With us on ADBN TV as we begin a review of headline stories as published on the front pages. Our guest is the MD of CSA Advisory, an ardent economics and a political affairs commentator, Dr. Allyu Ilias, who joins us virtually from the nation's capital. Hello, Doctor. Good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Let's get straight into the conversations, and we'll start off the back of the commissioning of the remodeled Abuja International Conference Center yesterday. How much of a milestone is this, noting that since it was established in 1991, this is the first time it's going under any form of renovation or remodeling whatsoever?
Right, I think it's a good one that we are remodeling our international conference. It's our pride edifice, and we are also proud of it. I can tell you, I've actually attended a lot of events there, and even before this refurbishment, whenever I entered into the place, I'm always very, very happy and excited that we have such a beauty. So adding to it and making it more beautiful. In fact, when they told me they are rebuilding it, remodeling it, I was wondering, what is there to remodel? I was thinking, it's not, but by and large, I think it's a good one that we are uplifting the face and making sure that it's the best. But I was only surprised that the FCT Minister ended up giving it Tinubu International Conference Center.
Now, the president, speaking about the president, yesterday during his speech, he gave a charge to ministries, departments, and agencies. He said the conference center would not be for free, and no one should go into the habit of government agencies making use of it and not paying for the services. How much of a charge is this that should be complied with in our quest to rake in more revenue and ensure that government in itself is accountable for payments of such services?
You know, lack of payment and inadequate payment is what killed most of our commercial agency. In fact, I can tell you of the Nigerian Airways. Nigerian Airways actually died because people want to actually use it for free. So most of our government-owned location, people want to use it for free, and that brings a lot of problems. So, and that's why I said it's a good one that directly president is charging them that no one should use the edifice for free. Everybody must actually pay for this. So I think that would be a good one, and it would have bring in more income to generally continue to maintain it, and it will bring more revenue to the federal government.
Now you talked about the renaming of the edifice after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The FCT minister, in his comments, says it's a bid to immortalize him. Not just that the center was named after President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, certain halls within the ICC were also named after the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, his deputy, Senator Jibrin Barrow, and other NAS members, including the speakers of the House of Representatives and his deputy as well. We see a situation where the immortalization should happen during a lifetime. Before we talk about immortalizing people long after they're gone, can we give them their flowers whilst they're still around?
Well, if someone like Gowon, who is the former head of state, is just being maybe immortalized after many years, maybe after 30 years or thereabout, as University of Abuja, now Gowon University. So I don't know why people that are still serving, we are picked to actually name them. Remember that the Polytechnic in Abuja also, which is Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu Polytechnic already. So renaming it on them, for me, will I say it's eye service, or will I say request for Wike to show that it's actually for Mr. President and his stakeholders?
Now, it's also on the bid for us to know the significance and symbolisms of such renaming. I don't know how you view it in your own context. What does this speak to in terms of the years it took for the remodeling? If a building was established in 1991 and up until 2025, was it remodeled under a precedent? Does such magnanimity qualify at least for the symbolism in renaming the center after him?
Well, for me, not at all. Like I said, it's only the down part of the, they have different halls. It's only one of the halls that I think actually need such major remodeling. And if you have a good edifice, a good structure, well built, you may not have to do major remodeling. So remodeling it and saying because somebody remodeled it, they should name it after that person, it doesn't work well. Maybe they should go and build something else and rename it, like the Bola Ahmed Polytechnic. So not that you'll be quick in his while he's still in the first term, 2 years in service, he decided to remodel. If you not even build outrightly, remodel it and you are naming it. What should we say about people like Abacha, who actually championed Gwarimpa estates? Why didn't he decide, even as the military president, to say, I want to call it Abacha estate? No, it was not like that. So for me, I don't think it's because you are remodeling that you now say you want to give it the name of the president. You can remodel a lot of things, but it has to take time. Abiola was renamed during the 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari with National Stadium. Not quick as expected. So I think they should just take it easy. Let them actually have the 4 years first before they will start. Even the way we are going, we end up naming everything. No, for me, someone like me, I actually not comfortable with renaming. Why will you rename University of Abuja as Yakubu Gowon? Why will you rename International Conference Center as Bola Ahmed Tinubu? You can rename a road, you can name other things, not those things that have the international coloration.
It's because it wasn't built under him as well. Maybe some of those sentiments in question. Because we've seen some states where, take for instance in Akwa Ibom, where one of the FIFA approved stadiums was named after the Senate president, and to his credit, it was built in his time as governor, and many say it justifies such naming.
Well, for me, that's he was the head of that state and is the chief, how do I call it? He's the overall head in that state. So he can actually decide on that. But in this case, he's the one that actually built the stadium, and very beautiful stadium at that. So, but not, when Olusegun Obasanjo finished Abuja Stadium, why didn't he name it Olusegun Obasanjo National Stadium? He went and built his own library, built his own university. Even in his university didn't name it. So it's only the library he named after himself. So for me, I think it's not enough for you to actually rename such edifice after someone who is still serving. Obasanjo did not rename National Stadium after himself. Actually take time, and he was not even the one that named it Abiola Stadium. But we must stop that quick acknowledge syndrome.
Now let's move on to June 12th, Democracy Day, 26 years of unbroken civil rule. The conversations are on how this transcends just a celebration, particularly with the concern now that the Take It Back movement is calling on protesters and demonstrators to take to the streets in over 20 states to demand actions against the current hardship, hunger, and insecurity bedeviling Nigeria. From that angle of the conversation, how do you see Thursday, June 12th, shaping up?
Right. If you look at our democracy, unbreakable for the past 26 years, some people are questioning it. What have we achieved from that 26 years? Are we better in terms of economy? Are we better in terms of purchasing power? Are we better in terms of infrastructure? Are we better in terms of per capita income on individual? If you ask me, so that justifies why they want to go on the protest. In as much as I always say the protest should be within the ambit of the law, they shouldn't abuse the law, they should notify appropriately, and police should do his work diligently. There is right to protest, and I'm sure the celebration of June 12th will always be in a confined place. There should also be one not to go around that place. While the celebration is going, they should also carry out their protest. But for me, I think if we are looking at democracy itself, this is not the dream of even let's look at Fourth Republic. This is not the dream of even Abiola himself.
Now talking about that dream, one of the mantras during the then late MK Abiola campaign was a move against poverty, a move against hunger. 26 years down the line, you've talked about the indices and how we can judge whether we're moving towards such dreams. The Renewed Hope agenda has vehemently called for time, saying that these are necessary pains and baby steps towards a greater Nigeria of our dreams. Do you see a progression in that regard after 2 years?
Right, after 2 years, we are still at this level. That means it's a fallen hope if you ask me. I'm not a doomsayer, but I can also tell you that looking at the trajectory, after removal of first subsidy, flotation of naira, the president made us to know that things are going to change. We'll have more income, we'll have more better living, we'll cut short those people that are taking our crude oil, I mean our oil, our petroleum product across the border. But up to now, we've not seen the major difference. We are deepening into more poverty, the more. And I can tell you the major reason, the major cause of that was the first subsidy removal, because it has taken purchasing power from people. People cannot actually survive as expected. We agree that there could be hardship before, we see development. But I will say that what World Bank said, that it will take 15 years of hardship before Nigeria can come to enjoy the dividend of this new policy. And that's going to be the result we are expecting. The answer should be no. We want, in as much as we want to develop, we also want immediate succor. We want to reduce this level of poverty in Nigeria.
Now, the other angle to the conversation, still on democracy at 26, is positions of former social-cultural groups. We've seen messages from the Iowa Consultative Forum, the Afenifere, the Ohaneze Ndigbo, and they've been very vocal about the role of politicians in the current hardship being experienced in the country. They're charging them on selfless service. They're also talking about premature campaign ahead of 2027. Do you feel that these are basically some of the challenges that has kept Nigeria where it is at, despite 26 years of democracy rule?
I think the campaigning at this point in time is premature. How can you have 2 years down the line, then we see posters of Mr. President, we see different houses painting his color to start campaigning? I think we are taking the governance to back seats, where we are actually trying to, campaign for next 2 years. I think it's unheard of, and President Bola Tinubu should actually look into that properly, because if we start campaigning at this point in time, that means governance will take a backseat. Then in terms of selfless, do we have a selfless leader in Nigeria? The answer is no, because there's this consensus by elite. Once they are there, they make things difficult for others, and they want to be there perpetually to do their trade as they want to do it. If we actually have true leaders who actually have concern. If you look at the yearnings of Nigeria in terms of poverty, we should have seen some drastic effort. I could only see one of the aid of Bola Tinubu resigning on the fact that Nigeria is cheating towards one party, one political party. But that's not a reason for me. Why don't you resign because there's poverty in the land? That should have speak volume more.
Now, talking about distractions, I know the presidency had issued a statement some months ago distancing itself from some of the campaign billboards and posters that are littering major cities across Nigeria, from those seen in the FCT to those seen in Lagos, and saying that it's not the handiwork of the APC in itself, but probably supporters and those who are nursing the ambition for President Bola Tinubu's re-election. Do you see this as a distraction from governance?
100%, it's a distraction from governance, because this is what we expect from even opposition, even coalition, even other political parties, not from the ruling party. When you are a ruling party, you must be much more concerned about governance. Anything that would distract your administration should be actually make sure that you avoid it. But this government in power, they are still the one champion. If you look at the city of Abuja, right from the airport down to the city gate, you see, if you go to some states, you see it, campaign everywhere. As if it's Soludo state. Anambra said that we have election coming in November.
Now, I'm talking about the elections coming in and the one-party state accusations. The APC NWC member Bankole, responding to these allegations of one-party states, he looked to dismiss it. He said there's no way that the president is plotting a one-party state. But it's of the concern that as we speak and as the days go by, beyond an endorsement of the APC NWC for President Bola Tinubu's re-election, we're also looking at massive waves that are now being called Hurricane Tinubu, with the members of the Senate, now 68 senators for the APC, whilst the House of Rep has 207. Two PDP state governors are the most latest to also decamp as well into the fold of the APC. With all these indications, do you see reasons why Mr. Bankole is saying that it's not an indication of a one-party state?
Well, I don't know how to actually describe that. I'm sure he's also being economical with the truth. But how can you have such level of defection? And you said he's not tilting towards a one-party country. Now, not even one party, it's one-party country because now we really have APC and everybody is defecting. As at day before yesterday, we still see one of the spokesperson of Atiku coming back to, APC indirectly. He has not said he's moving directly, but you see all of them. It's like they have we actually an antidote to just tell them that if you don't do this, this happens. If you do this, this happens. And let's also follow the words of Adams Oshomole, who said, once you are in APC, your sins are forgiven. So perhaps that's what they are actually looking at, and everybody's thinking they are saying it to forgiving, and they also need to cut from national cake. That's why they're all, but to some extent, for me, if you ask me, some theorists are also saying, that they are being coerced, especially why will you be a governor in a state? And you are still thinking of moving to another party. That means it lacks ideology, and that's definitely something you are either afraid of or you have been threatened about.
Now I'm talking about the famous quotes from Comrade Adams Oshomole, now Senator Adams Oshomole, about sins being forgiven once you come into the APC. The Rivers APC state chairman, Mr. Tony Okocha, has mocked the suspended governor Allyu Fubara's visit to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying that in no way would his sins be forgiven, and that the APC in Rivers State is not a dumping ground for erring politicians, in his words. He has said that the suspended governor should prioritize amending his relationship with suspended members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. What do you make of the APC chairman's statement?
Well, the fact is that everybody will steal from their own position. He's an APC chairman, so you expect him to actually, even make sure that that even though you are coming to our party also will give you some condition, and that's what it actually simply means. But for me, that the Allyu Fubara is now meeting the president. He's the president of the nation, so he doesn't have choice. He has to meet with him and has to amend his way. But according to Okocha himself, that he should amend his way with the state assembly. I think state assembly also should amend their way with the governor, because it's a two-way thing. They all need to come together. But the thing is, if Allyu Fubara will amend his way with Wike, I'm sure he will amend his way with the state assembly, because the state assembly actually in support of Wike, and that's why we have such rifts. I hope they will also return him after 6 months, so that he can actually face a proper governance from the hand of sole administrator.
Now, talking about how much of a big move it would be, do you see the suspended governor defecting to the APC to start with? Is there much to make of his visit to Mr. President?
For me, I said that severally in this beautiful studio, that I saw him coming, because and I said PDP will be the loser, because you have not seen what PDP tried to put in place to support him, even during the trial time, or even up to now. And for him to be rubbing mind with Mr. President, for him to have a very peaceful administration, he has to align with the national, and he has to align with Wike indirectly. So if he can do that, I think he was going to have it much more easier. Though it's not good for our democracy, but I assure you, if people that does not even go to Mr. President openly are actually coming to APC and they are governors, so who is Allyu Fubara, who is having trouble time not coming to APC?
Now, Dr. Allyu, you would agree with me, the saying is that politics is local, it starts from the ward level. If the president should embrace the suspended governor, should he choose to defect, do you see disagreements at the ward level, particularly with the state chairman of the APC not too excited about the possibility of a defection? How does the party manage such a relationship?
Immediately Allyu Fubara decamp or move to PDP, APC, he will remain the leader of the party. So he will only be dealing with people like Wike, not people like Okocha. Okocha has to be submissive to him. And you know what it means for a state party chairman to have governor, to have governor in his party. It's a plus to Okocha. So for me, I think all what he's saying is just to spur Timileyin Fubara to actually see reason to reckon with them when it comes to APC.
Now, also about nursing ambitions, because with this massive wave of defections, what it means is that they are new APC members, or should I call them decampees, who will be coming into the party in different states, even in the House of Assembly, the National Assembly as well. How does the party manage ambitions between old members who have been card-carrying members all the years and who will be feeling that the 2027 elections is a ripe opportunity for them to birth those ambitions, vis-a-vis those who are already sitting governors who would be probably running for a second term, or those who are federal lawmakers who are also nursing second term ambitions? How does the party share a formula of ambitions that would not aggrieve old members and still make room to embrace second term ambitions?
And that's why I have issue with the statement that every governor of APC have a right of first refusal. Because let's go back to Delta, where we have Omo Agege came second and fight vehemently with Sheriff in Delta. So how are we going to do that now? Because will you say Omo Agege should drop his ambition? And how will you actually pacify him? Will you give him a minister? There's a lot of way to pacify him though. But what if such person even they come to a PDP? Because traditionally Delta is PDP. So if he come to PDP, what happens? So these are the things that party need to look at. And as people are decamping, I think party should be open or be sincere with their clear-cut agenda for them. So if you decamp, will you have the opportunity to contest immediately? As governor, are we going to give you, that opportunity? And that's why, if you notice, those that are even decamping, most governors, they are first-time governors that actually need, that will be in need of second-term opportunity. So for me, I think party have a lot of work to do. If not, the party will implode because of that reason.
Now, like you said, most of the Niger Delta states over time were predominantly PDP states. But the PDP at the time is going through some of its own trials and tribulations. There are factions forming in the PDP. Now, despite the honors of reconciling aggrieved members given to the former president of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, we also saw the FCT minister convene a meeting of what he called concerned stakeholders. Now, we're hearing that some of the outcomes of that meeting was also conversations about a southern presidency in the coming future, with the PDP leaders divided over a proposition which has been also credited to the FCT minister. In your view, what's going on in this direction?
Right. So I think PDP issues, the Wike factor, I think is one of the major problems, because when you see that stakeholder meetings, is PDP in PDP, when you have PDP, you still have stakeholder PDP, which is a serious contradiction. But in that case of Bukola Saraki should continue to do his work. And I believe he's a leader in that party, a Senate president at that, former Senate president at that. But when the stakeholders are saying that the presidency is going to the south, I don't see anything bad in it. Honestly, I don't know why it's difficult for PDP to actually agree that it should zone it to. Because by 2031, are you saying that you will now zone the presidency to south? This is why they should have to be careful, because anything they do now is going to affect the future. So for me, I agree with the Wike team that no, let's zone it to the south. So by the time we zone it, by the time it's shifting to 2031, we can actually zone it to the north. And because you cannot, by 2031, be bringing southern candidates, you must, by every condition, bring northern candidates. So, and that's why they have to align together. But I find it difficult to understand the position of Wike. Wike said he's going to support southern presidents, and he's going to support, emphatically, he's going to support President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. So I don't know why, if they now bring a PDP, maybe they want to just make him what do you call it? There's a name we call it, but a position holder who will just be there and he will have the history. you have the history of a former presidential candidate under PDP. If not, it is clear that most of them are going to support Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Now, on Monday as well, off the back of the concerned stakeholders meetings as convened by the FCT Minister Wike, the famous G5, talking about former governors of states, were present. Former governor of Benue, His Excellency Samuel Otom, that of Enugu, Ifeanyi Ogunanyi, and that of Abia as well, Ikpeazu Okezie, were present at that meeting, and they reaffirmed the position of Senator Samuel Anyanwu as the national scribe of the party. A decision now that has been mocked by other PDP stakeholders in the likes of Governor Fubara. They're saying that this resolve of the FCT minister backing Senator Anyanwu for the national scribe position is laughable. How does this work for PDP going into 2027?
Yeah. Well, after God, we said the Supreme Court. So I don't know why Supreme Court pronouncement is becoming so difficult. Perhaps even Anyanwu time is going to elapse in November. So I don't know why PDP is creating a lot of problem. For me, if I can advise PDP, why not accept Anyanwu if Supreme Court said is a substantial secretary? Then you push up to November where you have election. In fact, election may come even August or September. So I don't know why. Because if you don't allow Anyanwu to operate now, it will also be a problem even during the what do you call it, the convention they want to have to choose their new political party. Even when you talk about the Anyanwu position, what about the position of even the chairman? Is it actually right? It's supposed to be from the middle belts, but we have a northeastern person heading the affairs. So I think PDP should get it right from their own executives. That should be the right position. So when people like Wike and co are saying this is what they want, it simply means you give them rooms to actually call for such.
All right, still talking about what can be done ahead of 2027, do you see the PDP getting its house in order, or is 2 years quite a short span to resolve this disgruntlement and bring them as a formidable opposition going into the elections?
Well, for me, PDP still have the time because they have the best of structure. You know, recall they are in nooks and crannies of Nigeria, so they still have so. But I think they just need to get solution, and the solution should be that their convention that is coming up. And for me, I think PDP should be bold enough to sack. Where you sack to actually suspend who need to be suspended. So actually, anybody that is stopping them, let that person go. I think that bold step will define the PDP as it's supposed to be.
Now let's leave political issues and come to issues of the economy. Now, one of the biggest stories making the rounds this morning is a Reuters report that Nigeria's initial plans of obtaining $5 billion oil-backed loan from Saudi Aramco has suffered a setback owing to the global decline in oil prices, much like we talked about last week on the show. What does this do for the federal government's intent to find alternatives to finance the 2025 budget, which is already in shortfalls?
Right. So for me, I think it's a positive externalities for Nigeria.
Positive,
when you want to borrow, it's a positive externalities in the sense that when you want to borrow and the borrowing is not forthcoming, I think it's a good one, because when you borrow, it's a double problem for you. So sometimes we have to look at internally what we can actually do and make do what we have. You know, Nigeria is not well positioned in terms of oil. What do I mean is that when oil is coming down, our income is coming down. When oil is going up, the citizens of Nigeria are also paying more for petroleum products. So for me, I don't think borrowing, we should just carry a bit in terms of borrowing. Then when you talk about shortfall, you recall that you're actually asking for particular money, which amounts to about 47 trillion. And you look at the budget deficit was about 13 trillion. Now, if you look at the shortfall in oil, but we have also declared that we have more money for first subsidy removal. We have also custom have declared that they are raking in more money. FIR.
Well, Dr. Allyu Ilias will be back shortly to continue his train of thoughts.
Yes, said they are raking more money. I think we should make do with that. That will have helped
And Doctor, the other challenge now is with the record deal this would have been in shaping negotiations, but the fact that this is another question on our resource-backed loans. We have one of the largest single-train refinery, and many are talking about how he's sourcing for crude from other parts of the world, and we're supposed to have our other refineries come back on board. If we continue in this trajectory of resource-backed loans, would this be an impending challenge in the availability of crude to the refineries that readily need it for use back here on Nigerian soil?
Well, right. You know that sometimes when you have challenges, it makes you to think more. But at the point of convenience, you find it difficult to think. I think this will pose a more challenge to Nigeria, and we have to look at alternative to solve our problems. For me, I don't think it's because there is availability of money to borrow. That's why sometimes we seem to be laid back to actually say, well, since we have alternative, if we don't have alternative, we'll look for what to do and how to solve our problem. So for me, I think Nigeria should look for how to solve the problem internally.
Well, it's a big problem because we also hear that there's a bill on the floor of the Senate looking to also extend the 2027 budget capital vote. You know, the lifetime of the 2024 budget was also extended by a month. It ought to have ended since the month of May, but up until we're going into July. What does this do for our budget life cycle and the challenges that, as much as we continue to extend it, 2025 budget continues to record some pitfalls in where the exchange rate is, in where global crude oil prices are as well?
I think this budget cycle disruption is not a good one for Mr. President. For me, Mr. President should do more at all his effort to make sure that he actually sustain, because Buhari was able to sustain this, and that actually show prudency. It give room for oversight function. It give room for Nigerians to actually monitor how budget are being spent. I think January to December should be maintained at all costs.
Now, the World Bank is also having its say in what is currently going on in Nigeria. They are predicting what they call a sluggish economic growth for the country. I don't know, many had always kicked against our tendency to lean towards the Bretton Woods institutions' predictions for us and to take our faith in our own hands. But what do you make of this prediction of what is now being termed a sluggish growth for the country?
Well, it is actually expected. I think that's not only for Nigeria, it's a global concern, because you see that with the Trump trade policy, it has actually slowed virtually all economy in Nigeria, in the whole world. You can also see that we have oil price slowing down. That also will slow the economy. I remember our mainstay in Nigeria economy is about oil. So if it is oil, that simply means that we have to actually experience a sluggish to an extent.
Now, it's quite interesting. Our overdependence on oil has also seen a lot of scammers looking to make undue gains in that regard. Just yesterday, the NNPCL's Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Shonoye, issued a statement where the NNPCL was warning investors against the possibility of scammers posing as NNPCL officials. Let's get more insight into this and why you think this is a gaining issue in that regard.
Well, the fact is that scammers are everywhere, and when we see scammers, that simply means people that pretend to be a particular coming from a particular sector, a particular organization, a particular, try to offer fake service as it were. I think we should just shine our eyes. It has been there a long time, and it has been the practice. Remember, is it PTDI?
For a sector as sophisticated as the oil and gas, shouldn't it be very easy to detect who is a fake NNPCL official from a poser or a scammer? Unlike those who would say most Nigerians who are unsuspecting in other businesses of life, might not be easy to tell a fake from an authentic.
Well, it's pretty difficult until you prove it through documents before you can know who is fake and who is original. But that's why it must take a process. So a process would have exposed that person. Are they well registered? Are they staff? Are they this? Are they that? That would have expressed and showed that the more. So I think they should just make sure everybody follow the process.
Now, talking about following processes and registration, there's news about Dangote shaking up the capital market with the registration and listing of his refinery on the capital market. How much of a significant stride is this, and what does this do in terms of the dynamics in the downstream sector?
I think that's one of the best things to happen to Nigeria, because of recent the most best thing to happen to Nigeria was introduction of the Dangote refinery and petrochemical, not only because of balance of payment, balance of trade, but even because of employment. And now that is listing it on the capital market, I think that's a good one. It will avail Nigerians to buy into it. It also shows transparency in that sector. I think it's a boost for Nigeria economy.
Now let's leave issues of the economy aside. Let's come down to education. One of the prominent headlines on one of the newspapers this morning was on the deadline and target set towards 2027, and this time away from the elections, is on compliance with computer-based test centers and its adoption into even WAEC and NECO. The challenge with that report is now on the level of computer literacy in public rural schools, and the fact that up until now the infrastructures are inadequate for students to sit for these exams. Should they all now have to be CBT? What's your take on the level we're moving towards computer literacy and this change from having essays and multi-choice questions to now having most exams based on CBT?
Well, it is a sad commentary to say that some people in Nigeria, be it rural, be it urban, are still behind in terms of computer literacy. I think it's not a good one at all. And that's why I believe that computer literacy shouldn't be an excuse at all. However, for me, I'm not still a proponent of everything should be CBT, because there are some questions that still require you to do that rigor of thinking to put down. But the excuse that we are not computer literate across board is not accepted. But I have the argument that let some exams still have to do with pen and papers.
Now, Doctor, let's look at the statistics that we're provided with. We're told that less than 30% of public schools have computer labs. Less than 30%. What do you make of this demographic? How low is it, and how best can we improve that ahead of 2027?
So I think Nigeria should develop a target, not quick to start CBT exam, but we should develop a target that every institution, be it primary, secondary, should have established computer lab where it can contain at least maybe 20% of the students in that school. When you do student to computer analysis, that would have helped. So if we have 5 years target to meet up that, then we can now bring about WAEC and NECO exam in that manner.
Now, the other worrying statistics is beyond the students. We're also told that 72% of educators lack the basic digital skills. Now, and educators in the sense of teachers in both the primary and secondary school level, and particularly emphasis on public schools.
Well, if you look at public school, I think we are far behind. People like us who attended public school, even then there was no computer, but we can actually find it difficult to differentiate between public and private because of the quality of teachers and the qualities of infrastructure that is available. So I think that's where government needs to do more. If you go to some African countries, in fact, people prefer to take their work to public school compared to private school, and that's why. But if you look at Nigeria now, every person is teaching towards private. But I can tell you in FCT, most public school in FCT are better than majority of the private school.
Now, UBEC conducted a census quite recently, and if I get the figures correctly, it was a disparity between public and private schools, whereas 89% of private schools have computer labs and are teaching computer science. Only 12% of public schools are doing that. Now, looking at the same comparison between public and private schools, we're told that 90% of public schools do not even have a library, talk more of having a computer lab. Whereas when you look at the secondary schools that are privately owned, at least 65% of them have libraries and have computer sciences. What does this do in terms of a balanced playing field and equal access to opportunity for all, which is encapsulated in the SDG goals, which Nigeria is also supposed to be driving towards?
And that's why I will enjoin CSO, NGOs to make sure that they bring out the statistics of states that are behind and states that are actually doing well. Because until we bring them and expose them, they may not want to do the necessary things. Because I don't know why 12% of public schools will be having those computer. It's supposed to be across. And that's why I said it's a sad commentary to say that at this age that some states are there, some schools are there without computer lab. The in thing is computer virtually everywhere, and that's why our children, our students, our wards must be exposed to that. I think the onus is also on Minister of Education to ensure that every school actually have the appropriate lab.
Now, another story from the education sector this morning is one involving the ex-JAM registrar in a case of alleged 5.2 billion naira fraud. The court has rejected his application of a no case. Now, this is talking about being able to hold leaders accountable, especially in the performance within office and issues of anti-graft. I don't know if you've been following the case and what you make of this latest turn in the story.
Right. In as much as most people follow the antecedent of the registrar, you should also give room for that probation, for that probe. If you know you complain, go to the courts and actually defend yourself. So I don't think, and I think, petition has been coming from different quarters about him. So it's time for him to also go and say, I am actually clean. Because if you look at the past record of people that have had that jam, they are always found wanting one way or the other.
Still on education, one last story before we turn our focus. ASU also issuing a statement this morning saying going forward, any month salaries are delayed, they would be invoking the no work, no pay policy. It's conversations on how the federal government can better manage these issues of remuneration as it concerns the Academic Staff Union of Universities.
Right. Well, I think it's getting better, I would say, since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu come. So they should have a very good position, both of them, to avoid strike, because the impact of strike on students is not small at all, and that's what brings about much more private university, because you see public university going on strike. So ASU should also find a better way, not strike at every time. They should find a better way to approach the federal government as well.